This is the new Falcon Master's Castle that came out a couple of months ago. It's a mock that uses 4 copies of the Creator 3-in-1 castle to make this massive Black Falcon fortress. It is a huge set that's made up of over 5,000 pieces and comes with 8 Black Falcon Knights. So today we're going to be taking a look at the set and trying to determine if it's worth the $420 asking price. We're also going to talk about the building experience and compare it to some other medieval sets like the Lion Knight's Castle and the Medieval Town Square. So let's get right into it. I'm going to break this video up into a couple of sections to make it easier for you to navigate the review. We're going to start off first with the exterior of the castle, then move into the interiors, and then we'll take a look at the boat that comes with the set. After we do our entire overview of the model, we'll then move into some comparisons, and then finally my opinion of the set and its value. Starting at the front of the fortress, we've got some heraldry that's made with some pretty clever connections to hang these shields and the helmet in place. This little bit of flair in the front of the castle does a nice job of breaking up the gray of the walls and gives a really bright first impression of the castle. Both the portcullis and drawbridge can be raised and lowered with the 2 knobs on the side of the front gatehouse. These knobs are easily accessed because of the open walkway that they sit just above. The walkway is 5 studs deep, which allows you to place a fair amount of minifigures on guard duty. Below the walkway, we get some detailed walls that make use of masonry bricks and some round elements as well. The usage of the Nexonite tiles here also add in a bit more depth to the wall. And at the ground level, we have a suggestion of some mossy rocks jutting out of the water below. Moving along the right side of the front section, we get one of our 2 round towers that come in the set. It's greebled in the same style as the previous wall and has a small window on the corner. And the top of the tower gives us a little space to place a minifigure or 2. Now if we continue around the side of the castle, we'll find another walkway with more space for minifigures. And below we have the same style of rockwork and walls from the front. Moving to the back of the castle, there's a little section of a yellow Tudor building that then morphs into a more standard square keep. This keep is covered in various kinds of windows, some with wooden coverings and others with the standard arrow slits. At the top of the keep, there's a covered bell tower and a small area for the Black Falcons to practice archery. There's also a small hatch that leads down into a ladder and the interior that we'll look at a little later in the video. Down at the base of the keep, we've got a few curved pillars that add in some more visual interest to an otherwise pretty square-looking building. Continuing along the back of the castle, we have a very small section for a minifigure to stand on, and some foliage growing at the bottom of this wall. Then we also have a very tiny dock for the boat to come up to. The door here is way too small for any minifigures to fit through, but it at least gives the impression of it. Right next to the dock, we've got a yellow and brown Tudor building that can be accessed from the inner courtyard that we'll be exploring here in a minute. Attached to the Tudor building is the largest round tower in the set. It's very similar to the first one that we looked at, but it's taller and has a more imposing presence over the castle. The top of the tower is enclosed this time and has some gold lattice windows that match really well with the dark blue spire above them. The spire can be removed, but we'll be doing that in the interior section of the overview. Moving along, there's a small section for minifigures halfway up the tower. It's about the same size as the top of the tower, so you can place a couple of archers up here if you'd like. Below all of this, we've got a couple of small trees that stick out of the rocky base of the castle, with their roots sticking out of the rocks and even into the water. And now we've made it all the way back to the front gatehouse. So before I give my opinions on the exterior, let's take these sections of the castle apart to get a better look at the interiors and the courtyard. Starting with the gatehouse, you've got a very spacious ramp up to the courtyard that you can place a couple of mounted knights on or a bunch of Black Falcons on foot. Above the ramp, we've got a wall that can be removed to access the inside of the gatehouse. Here we can see all of the mechanisms that control the portcullis and the drawbridge. Now moving to the left, we've got the walkways that lead down some steps into the courtyard. Here we have a crane that can be moved up and down as well as from side to side. which you can imagine being used to move crates around the inside of the castle. This floor actually slides out, which gives us a much better look at the basement or dungeon floor of the castle. This room is the barracks of the castle, so you've got a bunk bed, some weapons and armor, and a little platform that you can maybe use as a sparring ring. To the right of the barracks, there is a treasure chest and the structure that holds up the ramp into the castle. Moving now to the next section of the castle, we've got the courtyard outside of the keep. This whole inner keep is very detailed and uses a lot of arch pieces to give it a more unique look than the rest of the castle. We've even got a door here that can be opened and is greebled well with some ingot pieces and tiles. Above that, we've got a gargoyle-esque statue that is quite similar to the one in the front of the gatehouse. Now we can actually gain entry to the interior of the keep by simply removing this wall, where we'll find a dining/living room with a candlelit table, fireplace, and hanging Black Falcon banner. Going up these steps, we'll find a treasure chest and a ladder that leads up to the roof of the keep. Moving down to the inside of the dungeon, there are 3 skeletons in different poses and a place for a Black Falcon guard to sit. And now for our last section of the castle, we have the largest space in the courtyard. This space can hold a bunch of Black Falcons or really any peasants that you might have in your collection. The interior of the yellow building is essentially empty, but it has a nice banner pattern in the entrance of it. To the left of that building, we get the entrance to the tower with a red overhang above it. Going up to the tower, we can now remove the spire and see the small bedroom inside of it. There's not much in here, but the detailing is pretty nice. Moving down to the basement of this section, we'll find a spacious kitchen with an oven and a couple of different crates of food. This is also where we can find the door that leads out to the dock. So now that we've seen all 3 interiors separately, I'm going to put the castle back together so that we can see the main courtyard in its complete final form. With the castle all closed up, you can really get a sense of just how much space there is to pose your minifigures. From the battlements on the walls to the courtyard beneath, you can play out a ton of different scenes with your minifigures. Okay, and now let's take a quick look at the Sea Serpent boat that was included with the set. This boat is actually a remake of the Sea Serpent set, and they have very faithfully remade it with some of the parts from the sets. They've gotten some really good looking angles around the hull of the ship, and there is plenty of room to pose some of the minifigures in the boat. I've got a few personal thoughts and critiques of this ship, but I'll save that for later. First, I'd like to show you how the castle looks next to some other medieval sets currently available. I think it makes sense for us to compare it to the original 3-in-1 castle, so let's do that before moving on to the larger comparisons. Looking at these 2 sets side by side, I was surprised by how much more subtle the colors are in the 4x mock. The original castle has a lot of yellow showing, while the 4x version uses it more sparingly. You end up with a decent bit of extra unused yellow parts after finishing the mock, so I'm assuming that was a stylistic choice. And I think it ended up working in its favor. The yellow buildings are a lot more striking here because they aren't nearly as present in the model as they are in the original set. So it's just a little bit more visually interesting to me personally. Now for our next comparison, I think we should look at the Lion Knight's castle. These 2 sets go for roughly the same price, so I think that's the best set to compare to this one. Immediately what's jumping out to me is the difference in style. The Lion Knight's castle is built in a new classic style that tries to mimic the sets from the 80s and the 90s, but with modern pieces and techniques. While the Falcon Master's castle is limited by the parts that came in the original 3-in-1 set, so it has to base its style off of those pieces alone. Thankfully, the designer managed that task incredibly well, and we ended up getting a mock that has a very unique look to it. The Lion Knight's castle is definitely more polished, but that makes sense given the circumstances. The aspect that I like more about the Falcon Master's castle over the Lion Knight's castle is the playability. You get way more room in the courtyard of the 4x model that you just don't get in the Lion Knight's castle. There's just way more room to pose your minifigures and create whatever scenes come to your mind. I also think that, surprisingly, the Falcon Master's castle has really given the Lion Knights a run for their money when it comes to interiors. I was not expecting the interiors of this mock to be nearly as good and fleshed out as they are. Again, they don't quite have that polish that comes from an official LEGO set, but they really surprised me with how solid they are. Now, of course, the question of which one is better naturally comes up, and I don't think that there's a good answer for this, to be honest with you. Even though they both cost around the same price, it's not a one-to-one comparison because one is a mock and the other is an official set with new prints and minifigures. And to be honest, you probably aren't looking to buy this mock if you aren't already a massive castle fan that already has the Lion Knight's castle. So I'll leave it at that. Moving on, I'd like to do a few more quick set comparisons. Here is what the original Sea Serpent from the 90s looks like next to the one from this mock. You can really see how well he translated the original set to his modern take. It keeps what made the Sea Serpent a classic set and kind of just upgrades it in some ways, ignoring the sail though. And here's the medieval town square. I think it looks really good next to the castle. It scales decently well with it, and I could see someone displaying these two on a shelf together. Okay, now that we're done with the comparisons, I'd like to give my personal take on the set, and if I think it's worth picking up. So for full disclosure, I was sent 2 of the 4 sets needed for this mock for free, and I only paid $2 for the instructions. So a big thank you goes out to Made with Bricks for sending me those. With that being said, all of my opinions on this set are going to be my honest thoughts, and I'm not going to overly praise or criticize unfairly. So let's get into it. The mock costs anywhere between $360 and $420 depending on if you can find the 3-in-1 sets on sale. That's including the price of instructions, which is about $20 on Rebrickable. To begin, I'd like to talk about the build experience of this set. Normally when you build a LEGO set, you go from numbered bags all the way down until you're done with the set. This makes the build a whole lot easier because you aren't staring at a massive pile of thousands of bricks. With a Rebrickable mock like this one, you're not given that luxury. You must open up all 4 sets and all the bags at the same time to build this set. You can try and organize the pieces as best you can, but with over 5,000 pieces, it's going to be kind of annoying no matter what you do. I organized roughly by part type and color on my desk, and then I started building. I also sorted the smaller pieces into some sorting trays. And even with that prep, I still spent a stupid amount of time digging around and trying to find certain pieces. And unfortunately, this is where I think the building experience was just not as fun as a normal set. Granted, the instructions that you are provided with are super high quality and are basically on par with a real LEGO set. But the time that I just spent digging around trying to find pieces that I needed really soured some of the build for me. Now you could say that that's a skill issue and I should have spent more time sorting before starting the build. And you would be right. If you take your time and really break down every single piece down into neatly sorted spaces, then you're going to have a way easier time during the build. But I'm coming at this from the angle of your average LEGO builder. I purposely didn't organize the parts down as much as I could because I wanted to get the same experience as the average person buying this set would get. The fact is, most people are not going to sort the pieces as much as a more seasoned Rebrickable fanatic would. So my advice for anyone interested in getting this set is to accept that you're going to have to spend a good amount of time on prepping your workstation. Or you're going to be spending a lot of time staring at a pile of unsorted bricks. Now, even with all that being said, I still think this set offers a very enjoyable build. My favorite section was definitely the square keep in the back of the castle. It had some really fun interior details, and the exterior just came together in a very satisfying way. The same thing goes for the 2 rounded towers that were a lot of fun to see materialize. I would describe the overall building experience as half mock, half set. Let me explain what I mean. Sometimes these sections of the build would feel identical to an official set. This is mostly true for the interiors and the base plates of the castle. And then on the other hand, some portions just felt completely alien to me. The boat is a good example of this, as it comes together with a lot of pieces that you normally wouldn't use in a LEGO boat, which definitely gives it a more unique look, but I don't think it worked in its favor in the end. The sail just really falls short, and it kind of kills the overall design of the ship for me. That's no fault of the designer either. It's just what he had to work with in the original set's part library. Another note that I wrote down while building the set is that it doesn't look very good while you're building it, at least for the first half of every section. As you build a set like the Lion Knight's castle, you can really see it coming together from the very beginning. But with this set, it really doesn't feel like it's going to look any good while you're building it, at least until you get to around the halfway point. But once you get past that point, you can really see the set come together and it becomes satisfying. Okay, so now that I've given my spiel on the build experience, I want to talk about what I think about the display value of this set. First off, this set is deep, probably deeper than any LEGO set you have in your collection, and it's not going to fit on most shelves comfortably. Thankfully, I have one of the 19-inch deep Ivar shelves from IKEA, and it fits nicely on that, but if you want to put it on a classic 9 or 11-inch deep bookshelf, it's just not going to work. So please keep that in mind before you buy this set. With that, I do think that the set displays extremely well, and if you have a big custom medieval city or village, then this would be a really cool addition to that. I actually think that putting this MOC in a fantasy or medieval city is what it's best for, because it looks great from all angles and should be able to integrate easily into your setup. If you do have the space for this set, I think it is a great one to pick up. You can find the 3-in-1 castles on sale pretty often, going as low as $50 at some Walmarts in the US. So my final thoughts are that if you have the space for it, and are looking for a big castle that's not the Lion Knight's castle, then this set is definitely worth picking up. Just keep in mind some of the things that I said in this video, specifically about the building experience, and you'll have a great time. Made with Bricks, who is the designer of this set, has given me a code for 10% off the instructions for all of you to use if you want to buy this set. All you have to do is use code GOLDFIRE10 and get 10% off your purchase at checkout. I had a great time making this video, and if you enjoyed watching it, it would mean a ton if you subscribed. I basically only make medieval LEGO videos, so if that interests you, check out some of my other videos on screen now. And as always, thank you so much for watching.